that you were looking at yourself in an honest.
He makes better questions
Yeah,
than you.
he does. What I'm about to say is,
Dude, what a beautiful question. It was so framed.
I was like, you know what? Let me just hand him my mic. That's what I really thought.
Dude, that was an excellent question.
Would you reword the question? Welcome back, everybody, to Be the Trader. Today is going to be a fun day because I'm in Austin, Texas. I'm at a Roland Wolf event, which was so fun. It was so cool to meet all these people who love trading. And I met a good friend of mine who I know is going to be an even better friend over time. His name's Eduardo. And let me tell you something, when you hear his story, you're going to be blown away like I was. So, Eduardo, welcome to the show, my man. It's a pleasure to have you.
¿Qué pasó, mi pana? ¿Cómo estás tú? I was trying to learn to teach you how to speak in Spanish, but really slang Spanish, and it was perfect. So you did the Eduardo thing really good. I teach you well. I taught you well.
Duolingo is what I use.
Yeah,
every
I taught
day.
you well.
One lesson a day. It helps me eventually text you back because you'd be sending me voice messages in Spanish, and I'm like, Google Translate. I should know this.
I'm exporting my culture, you know.
Yeah, I appreciate it because it makes me more comfortable. I like to talk and hopefully get better one day. But
That's
enough
great.
about that. Let me ask you this, man. For those who don't know your story, right? They'll just see you maybe on Instagram, maybe on Twitter. You're a successful day trader. You help a lot of people. And not only that, but you're someone who shares it. And you have Kinfo as back verification, which I love, right? For those who don't know you though, and they just see that, let us know how did that all start?
Well, I'm from Caracas, Venezuela. I lived there 28 years or something. And I started everyone here, everyone in this world, with that, desire to get into the stock market in a way, maybe a movie, maybe something that got me here that I needed to be in the stock market. So I studied electrical engineer back in Venezuela. And when I was almost finishing the school, I was I need to get into finance. And my father was who is an almirant from the Navy, and I salute you on your papa, no joda. And he was like, why would you do that? Finish the engineering. All right, I finished engineering. Then I started to look for jobs in brokerage houses in Caracas.
Okay.
And back then, Chavez seized all the brokerage firms. And so suddenly I couldn't do that kind of job, and I couldn't be near the finance world. So I was like, okay, let's do a MBA in finance. I didn't know what I was getting into, but when I got there, it was I don't know, man.
How old were you?
No, and it's managing portfolios. It was not what I was expecting. So there was a teacher that recommended me to do a investment course, a trading and investment course, and I started seeing these assets to trade, forex, options, and all those kind of things. And when I realized is that volatility and liquidity are the best thing for day traders, So I, as everyone, started to research about that, and I saw Tim Sykes on the ads and stuff. That's how I got into trading.
Hey, we wouldn't be able to do these face-to-face interviews if it wasn't for our sponsor, Cobra Trading. So if you can just give them a few seconds of your time, we'd really appreciate it. Cobra Trading is the go-to broker for day traders and short sellers. And I'm not the only one saying this. In fact, Benzinga awarded Cobra Trading as the go-to broker for short selling. They have a heavy focus on direct market access order routing, so you have the fastest execution. They have some of the best locate prices and availability. They also have amazing customer service. I've experienced many different brokers, and it's why I use them every single day and why I'm proud to have them as our sponsor. Sign up now by clicking the Be the Trader referral link below and earn 1 free month of software with Cobra and 25% off all commissions. Now let's get back to the show.
Back then, Venezuela was, probably a little bit about the situation in Venezuela regarding the government and stuff.
I do not.
Well, it is kind of controversial because it's a really dictatorship kind of government-ish,
Okay.
because they have even elections there, as in Cuba, you know. But it's quite difficult. There were really, really difficult times back then. So I started trading while I was, you know, I think I was in the corporate world at first, and then I realized that I had to have a job that allows me to, you know, have the flexibility to trade. So I started like my own businesses and stuff, and I was trading and learning how to trade. So I began to being like a little consistent at first, and that's when like my wife got pregnant, and we started seeing things like it's not only us, but it's gonna be like a child in that environment. And it was a really harsh environment, because, for example, once I was like researching trading and researching the charts and all those kind of things, and suddenly I got a gun into my head, you know, in my own place. I was like, oh my God. I thought it was like a friend of mine, you know, joking around or something like that. And I was like, oh my God, what's happening? Like, yeah, you know, and I got even kidnapped in my own house. And that's when I realized that I got to get out of there, because, you know, safety, maybe I can take it, and maybe like for us, like in Venezuela, it's kind of normal, you know, you're kind of prepared for those kind of things, even though it's crazy to say that.
That's shocking.
But you kind of know the risk there is. So I even got like extortion calls from the jail, like, hey, I have your wife kidnapped. And I couldn't call my wife to see if she was okay, because if she was kidnapped, then, you know, it was going to be quite an issue. So we kind of were prepared for those kind of things, and I called like friends of her in her job, and no, she's okay. And they were like kind of trying to extortion people in that way, that kind of modus operandi, you know?
Yeah.
And I was like, you know, this is not like an environment to raise a kid. You know, we had something like a vacation or something like that here in the States, you know, and I was like, what am I going to do there? And obviously trading, right? And how do you think about trading when you're starting? You're like, okay, if I'm making this kind of money with this size, maybe if I triple it.
We know, yeah.
Yeah, it's not a good idea.
I'll make more.
Yeah, it's not a good idea. So I was like, yeah, I'm making this kind of money. I was like consistent, but I had huge losses back then. But I was like, you know, I can make money. And that's one of the things that got me like, I don't know, amazing trading is the first dollar you make, you go like, hey, there's a possibility here. You know, there's something here. So we came here to the States. I had like $10,000 in my bank account and a pregnant wife. I had an MBA in finance. I am an engineer. Like I had a pretty great life in Venezuela, even though all the you know, the crazy stuff that were happening there, like riots, like it was crazy. That was back in 2017, and it was crazy down there, like fires on the street all over the place. So when we came here, I had to do a lot of things in order to keep this going.
Yeah.
You know, because I was like,
what do you mean?
Well, because if you're trading and you want to live out of trading, you need to make money out of trading. And what I realized is, obviously, like 4 months later, after I blew like 2 accounts, I realized that you don't get to put pressure on making money on trading, and that's something that I learned the hard way. So I started like doing a lot of things in order to, you know, keep me trading. So
Like picking up odd jobs or stuff like that?
Dude, like the worst job that you can ever imagine, there I was, you know? But I did it, it was like kind of perfect for me in a way. Obviously it devastated my ego and devastated my, you know, you prepare yourself and you study and you work hard, and suddenly you're like sweeping floors. Not that sweeping floors is not okay, but it's just you're in expectations of life are different. So when you go like straight away down, and you go like, just to eat, you have to get like Chinese soups for a week. That's crazy. That's something like, we were talking about this yesterday, about like standards. Like once you get into a standard and you go like rock bottom.
How humble you quit.
Damn, that's hard. But it was like, I was so convinced that the trading idea was gonna work that I didn't care. And I was like, you know what? I'm happy the way I am. Like, I don't care if I don't have money right now. I know it's a temporary thing.
Right.
But I get to be happy in those kind of times. I remember that the days with my wife were at HEB. That's like a market here in Texas, That's crazy. And
a great market here.
a
great one. Yeah.
A great one. But like, and she supported me so hard that she even, one of these breakdowns, I'm sure you had tons, and I'm sure all of you had tons of this. I was like, you know what? I can't deal with this anymore. I cannot deal with this. And she was like, you know what? If you quit, I'm gonna divorce you. And I'm like, okay, this is kind of hard.
Right.
And I decided to keep going. I started to, like, I was really good at what I did. I'd make money, but just the pressure to make money was sabotaging myself. And people saw that I was really good at it, and they were like, a guy that sweeps his floor that is good in trading, tell me what you do. And I started like teaching how to trade, but in Spanish. And that way, when you want to master something, you got to teach it. And that thing like made me better at what I did. And little by little, I started like doing less crappy jobs and doing more trading. And that way, like, everything like went straight up.
Let me ask you this, so like, because you're in that mindset of you just lost a lot, right? You're coming into the States, and you said it kind of struck you, right? Kind of brings you down. You're not, it's not the best space. How are you able to separate that space and get through that time where money's not the focus? Because it's harder to do that, especially when you're in that situation, and especially because a lot of people watching are probably having expectations for themselves. They're probably thinking like, I'm thinking about leaving my job, so I need to make what I make at my job minimum right away, right? They have expectations.
Yeah.
And that expectation is hurting them. So how is it not hurting you?
Well, I think that question has like two parts. The first one would be, what I did was getting the results in advance. And that's calling a vision. You gotta have vision with this, and you gotta be, like, there's a saying, I don't know where I got this, but it is something like, you gotta know that there's a treasure. That's the first thing. You gotta know that trading is the thing for you. You gotta know it's possible, and you gotta know, you must know that you're gonna get it. And you must ask yourself, is this worth it? Like, is this treasure really worth it? So for me, it was totally worth it, because I knew what I was going to get if I went through all this, crappy things.
But wouldn't that make it harder? Because like, do you mean you knew what you're going to get in terms of like reward? Because if that's the focus, wouldn't that be harder?
Thing is, I don't have expectations, but I know I'll get it. In a vision kind of way.
What does that look like
long-term
executing
kind
on
of
a
way.
daily basis?
Thing is, on the daily, you got to enjoy the process. You don't get to like trade your goals.
Okay.
You have to respect your process, and you got to trust your process in a way that you kind of know that if you do those kind of things, they will lead you somewhere. They will. You're gonna get whatever you want to achieve, because you're trading your beliefs every single time you're in the market. You're not trading a chart. You're trading what you're capable of with that chart. So that kind of mindset gave me like patience. And I was like, I know this is the worst spot to be in, Like I was really, really miserable. You got to see my pictures at that time. I was like, man, but I knew, and my wife too knew, that it was a temporary thing. And what I would always suggest is don't get any expectations from the market, but know that eventually, if you work hard and if you do the things that you gotta do, we all know what we gotta do. Like, we all know. I'm sure that when you have a huge loss, maybe it's because you got indisciplined, or
a lot of the time
it
it's
is
that way. Yeah, let's be real. Almost every time you take, I think if more traders that you talk to, you'll find out that when they take a big hit, it's 99% of the time it's because they broke something.
Totally.
Right? They broke a rule, or something overcame them emotionally.
Totally. And that's that spot right there when you're right in the bottom. I think that's when you get creative. Like, because you don't have a choice. You gotta go, like, you gotta do something to get out from that place. And I think I got really creative, and that's why I trade the way I trade. You know, I'm like really, it's
How do
weird.
you trade? Explain that. What do you mean?
Well, I'm really like kind of conservative kind of guy, but that's like crazy because I trade small caps, so that's not conservative at all. But the way I trade is like really like I protect myself a lot. So that's why I showed you today that I got a lot of entries and a lot of exits just to have the best average that there could be and just to have the least drawdown that I can have. So I got this, crazy ideas in order to, trade the way I want it to be. And that's why I think like trading is an art, and that's why each one of us like trade in a different way, and it all fits our personality,
Absolutely.
Even though we learn from a lot of people and that influence our, our style.
It sounds like you definitely went through a lot of hard times. Like there were some scary moments there that you mentioned that I was just like, no way. Like, no way. Like, that's nuts. Like a gun to your head. Like, I was like, I couldn't believe it. And then you posted something on Twitter, like a whole, like thanking just the opportunity we have here in the United States. And you voiced how it was different in Venezuela. And I was just like really good to hear that. So if you've never read that, I don't know if you still have it on Twitter, but you need to go read that message, which is a lot of the reason why I wanted to bring you here. But while you're explaining your story, it just didn't seem like there was any hardship in your trading. And I'm sure it's false. I'm sure there was hardship in your own trading. But was there? And if there was, like, what was hard for you? Like, was there something that was keeping you back, whether it was mentally, whether it was like process oriented or like strategy oriented? Can you explain, was there something like that that was just kind of like your Achilles heel, if you will?
Yeah, first, that message, I think it's the key for everything else. Like gratitude, it's key. Like what we do, we gotta appreciate it a little bit more, because every single dollar that you make, there are people busting their back just to make like $10. Mm-hmm. And you're like pressing buttons and you're like, oh, I made $100. That's crazy, man. I'm like, and sometimes I think that people here are like, they take it all for granted, and that's what I try to transmit in that message. Yeah. Because I appreciate so much that we have here. Like, there are people that ask me, hey, like taxes, why don't you go to Puerto Rico, for example, that you don't have taxes there. I'm like, for the first time, I pay taxes and I see them, even though there are a lot of, crazy times, especially these times, right? Yeah. But you guys don't know what you have, and that's something that I have to transmit in a way. Be grateful for what you have, because that way you will appreciate more your trading. Yeah. And $50 in a day, it's quite a lot for what we do. Obviously, it's a really hard like job. Yes. And obviously you have to have a skill set in order to be. I think you have to be like outlier in order to perform more or less good, Okay. Yeah. You don't get to be good to, to make money. No, you have to be like an outlier in order to be okay on your performance. So that's for the first part. Then what was hard for me, that's why I think everybody asks me what was the turning point, and they always ask you about a strategy, about, hey, what's your favorite pattern, or what's your, like, why do you put so many arrows in a freaking chart, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what? I think technicals are way overrated. Like,
Cool.
technicals, yeah, of course you gotta know them.
Sure.
Obviously. But what separates the successful traders from the people that are not successful yet, I think it's mindset. Like, I think it is that kind of, you're trading your capabilities. You're trading your have you ever asked yourself, like, am I good enough for this? Like, am I really?
Absolutely,
like,
bro.
Every single time.
Almost every, yeah.
Every single time.
I could be 3 years in. I'm still like, I don't know if this is gonna work. You know,
it's so hard on a psychological level,
right,
that even though I have the greatest life ever, I have an absolutely beautiful family, I have results in my trading.
Yes.
And in December, I was freaking like crying for 3 days.
Okay.
And my wife was like, "Why are you crying?" And I'm like, I don't know. It's just too much pressure sometimes. And I think what gets you out of it, it's your mindset, like the vision you have with it, the conviction you have for every single time you step up and you do that process. And you try to be better. I'm here with Roland, learning, and every single time.
I saw that too.
8 years I'm into this.
Yep.
And I still come to stuff like this, and I'll be like 20 years trading, and I'll be still sitting there asking questions like this.
Yep.
You know, learning, because I think that's the beauty of this profession, that you get to like a never-ending learning kind of curve, you know, and that's great for your ego, because you don't get to get, if you get a little bit of ego, market will slap your face and will let you know that you don't have your feet on your on your floor, right?
Two things came up during that I really love what you said that I want to ask you about. But one of them, I don't know if it's more of a question or more of an affirmation. But I talk to a lot of traders, right? And you just hit it on the head when you said, not only, psychology is really important, but how you mentioned that, how they're able to get back. Like, they can have rough times, but it's maybe not as long anymore because they can have belief in themselves. They have that confidence. They can come back from it quicker. And I think I've noticed that a lot by talking, because all of us, dude, like every single, like a lot of people who watch the show may not know this, and I didn't know either. For the longest time, I thought, man, Roland Wolf, you know, name any trader that you think is a good trader. And you think, as a newbie, you think, he had a green day today. You know, like that's all you're thinking about, right? Because you're thinking,
profits.
He's doing great. I'm not doing too hot, right? But the difference is, like, they're having bad days too. And they have bad days, and when they do have their bad days, they're able to switch it the next day and, like, don't look back. They're able to move forward, next shot, and it's just the next day. Instead of worrying about what happened yesterday, which is exactly what you said, like, earlier. But then you also mentioned something around the idea of how your wife tends to support you around your trading, which is really remarkable, man. It's amazing. Like, shout out to your wife. You're awesome. Because not everyone has that, right? Not everyone does. Does she sometimes, and this might be a selfish question here, but does she sometimes know what's happening in your trading without knowing what's happening in trading, and then maybe sometimes gives advice, just general advice, but usually right?
Best coach that I have is her.
Isn't that right?
She's like, "Oh, you didn't cut your loss today, right? Yeah, you didn't respect your risk. Yeah, I can see it in your face. Yeah, why did you do that?" I'm like, "Oh my God."
Yeah, like they make it sound so easy. Why'd you do that? Why didn't you just hold?
Why didn't you just? I'm like, do it yourself. Come on, see this? You know?
Yeah.
First of all, I think you gotta involve your partner or whoever is supporting you in a way, but involve them in your journey. because that way they can, it's like what we're talking about, Emmanuel and I, the 75 hard thing.
Yes.
If you do it with someone, the accountability that you get, it's way, way easier to get to your goals. So that's, I think, one of the things that I had in her to support me was I involved her in the trading world. And I was like, see this, and she even wants to learn how to trade,
really?
to swing trade.
My wife started asking questions.
Yeah.
She's like, maybe I'll be a good trader. I'm like, you might be. You might be. You might be.
I always say that women are the best traders because they're super analytical. So, but you know what? The first part of your question, I always, I know that you guys think that successful traders are like this. God, I know. They're so different than I, and they never had a loss, and that's why I made my journey transparent, because that way, the Roger Bannister effect.
Yes,
You know that?
dude, I love the sprinter, Roger Bannister.
Yeah. So
what was
before
it?
Roger Bannister it was 4 miles in 1 hour.
Okay.
Right?
No, it was 4 minute mile.
4 minute mile.
That's
yeah,
what it was.
that's what it was. Sorry.
No one could ever beat that.
No one could ever.
And the scientists said it could never happen because your heart, something would happen. We just are not built for that. And then Roger Bannister beats that, and then many people beat it right after.
You couldn't explain it better.
I love that story.
I wanted to, yeah, of course. And I wanted to show that to people so they can be like, there are not many people from Venezuela, or people even from Latin America, or even Spain, are really successful. Not like scammy kind of coursing, selling kind of guys. No, really successful people, truly successful people that do this, and they're like, y hablan así, o sea, que te hablen así, que te hablen, coño, que tú digas, habla español, So
I don't know. What does that mean? What does that mean?
I got carried away. Sorry
Okay.
about that. But there are not many that can show you that it's possible. So I want to show people that relate to my accent, relate to my way of living. And
we talk about that all the time on the show. Yeah, we want to bring more diversity.
Of course. And that way, not only diversity, but that way you don't get the excuse that, that's why he is successful because he is an American and he has another, level of mindset, or he has money, or he has blah, 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 excuses. You can find people that are, obviously had its drawdowns, hard drawdowns, especially breakdowns, mentally and psychological breakdowns.
Yeah.
But you can always get back in the horse, right? And that's why I did that, because it's a way to show people, hey, even though you have a loss, you can be successful. Even though you can, hit your risk once in a while and have red days, you can be successful,
I love that you share everything, because I follow you, of course. And it's really cool to see that there's some days where I'll beat myself up, right? And I'm sure someone probably does the exact same thing. They'll have green day, red day, green, red. And they're just, all they see is the red day, right? And then I saw you post the other day, and it helped me out, because I was beating myself up because I didn't have green every day for some reason. Because I fall sometimes off of my game of process-oriented to profits, right? So I'm constantly trying to remind myself over that. And when you share that, it's just a realization that, man, everyone does this.
Of course.
Everyone. And we're all going to lose. We're all going to get punched in the mouth, and it's going to constantly happen. We're boxing. You're not going to box and never get hit. It's constantly going to happen.
That's right, totally.
I want to ask you a couple of questions before we start to wrap this up, but I need to find out. If you could go back in the past, right, yourself, and start over when you moved to the States and you started trading, what would be the one thing you would tell yourself to help you get here a little bit faster?
Trust yourself.
What do you mean?
You get a lot of doubts at first because you don't have the results. We all want the results right away, and we don't trust. We overrate what we can do in a month, but we underrate what we can do in 5 years. And I think trusting yourself would be the key. Obviously, you get a lot of mechanical things. I do a lot of stupid stuff. For example, trying to make money out of trading. That's the most stupid thing ever. And trying to size up when you don't have like the statistics in your side. I think it all comes down to detach from money. I know it's super hard because money is like one of the main reasons that we do what we do
to begin with. Yeah.
is gain money. But when you have it, after all the stupid things that I had to go through, when you have it, you realize that I was probably equally happy when I didn't have it than when I have it. Equally happy. The thing is, it's a matter of standards maybe. But when you detach from money and you start like trading just for the process and just for the, getting, for example, for me, it's like getting that chart as a paint. And you paint those triangles must be like perfect,
Yeah.
That's the way I see it,
Yes.
and that's the way whenever I trade, I just focus on that. I don't even see the P&L. Obviously, at the end of the day, I see the P&L and it's cool. Okay, I made this or I lost this, and sometimes I see my P&L and I'm like, okay, I'm $2,000 up. Let's be aggressive. I see many people like they get aggressive when they lose.
Yeah,
it's the other way around.
It's
like
the opposite, right?
Of course, when you're winning, you hit the gas, and that's the only reason that I look at the P&L. But I just look at the chart. I'm like, okay, there's an opportunity there. Let's, and I'm trying to scale now because one of the patterns that I see in successful traders is that they're always growing, always. They don't get to be like, even though it's comfortable in a way to get in a certain level,
right?
If you push it, then you must grow and you must learn new things. So I'm in that spot right now. I'm trying to push it.
And that's what you said earlier that I lost my train of thought on, and I'm so glad you brought it back. And that was the idea that you came here today and yesterday to an event about trading to teach traders how to trade. And you're here and you're asking questions. And I'm like, you inspired me to ask questions. It's like, holy crap, I love this, man. Because now you're just showing how open you are to continuing to learn and be a sponge and be a reminder that, hey man, like we're all need to constantly push and keep learning. Because this game is one of the hardest things we're ever gonna do. But look, I know there's probably some people out there in the audience today, because this is the first time we've ever had an audience, which is nuts.
Woo!
Yeah, this is nuts. This is nuts, but it's
cool.
fun.
I was
fun.
an experiment. Man.
Yeah, this is an experiment. But if anyone out there has a question that maybe, of course, I'm not going to ask all the best questions. So I'd love to know if there's something that maybe you want to know that we can ask Eduardo here and be happy to answer it. Cool. Anybody have a question?
Eduardo, on your the journey of trading, and I know we all have our lowest moments when we are trading. We're visionaries and we're working to get to the goal because we know we think we can do it. But a lot of it is stripping off the layers of a trader and looking ourselves in the mirror and giving ourselves an honest look of what we're doing wrong, right? Because nobody's pressing the button except for us pressing the button, right? That's the biggest problem. What was some of the stuff that you started to realize about yourself, or what you were talking to yourself through that lowest point of loss after loss, or big losses? I know like I've had a $45,000 loss once. Looking at yourself in the mirror going, what is it about me that's holding me back? What was the things that you were looking at yourself in an honest?
He makes better questions
Yeah,
than you.
he does. What I'm about to say is,
dude, what a beautiful question. It was so framed.
I was like, you know what? Let me just hand him my mic. That's what I immediately thought.
Dude, that was an excellent question.
Would you reword the question before you answer, just because they might not be able to hear his mic?
Yeah, there's no way that I can,
Just a
frame it like that.
Just summary.
But
That's why I talk loud.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
basically, he wants to know, like, what he's asking, just in case you didn't hear, we're just going to summarize it. It's just the idea of when you're having those big losses, when you're having, like, a drawdown or something's really hitting you, you got to face yourself in the mirror every day and really look at yourself and ask yourself the hard questions. What questions do you ask?
well, there's a thing about trading that you don't know yourself until you trade. And
That's
it's
true.
it's amazing how you can discover so many things about yourself that you only see them in the darkest moments. And I think that's why, and I think this is like a conflicting mindset that we have. Myself, for example, I always thought that I had to hit rock bottom in order to be successful. I don't know why. I think it was that kind of mindset that the best entrepreneurs should get bankruptcy in order to, be the greatest one. But that's as dumb as saying to be a good pilot, you have to crash a plane. It's just the stupidest thing. But we tend to do those kind of things, and that's why our minds just like, it conflicts, because you go like, hey, to be a great trader, I have to blow up my account. And then the other part, the conscious part, would say, yeah, I want to make money. They're like, conflicting. So I love your question, because every time we saw, each other in the mirror, ourselves in the mirror, is we're too mean to ourselves sometimes.
Oh, yes.
We tend to, see the 10% that is not good in our lives. We tend to be the 90%. Every single one of us, I know that the 90% of our lives, it's amazing and it's great. And we got to be grateful for that. But the 10%, that's what we spawn on. And I think that has to do with, I don't know if you guys had that in your childhood, but those kind of books that says, where's the difference? And they show you like really similar drawings, and they made you like point out where the difference are. I think that's what we do. Like, we tend to see what we're lacking of every single time. And what I learn is gratitude. Like, we don't know how lucky we are. That's why I made that post.
Yeah.
Because I saw such great traders saying like, trading is the most difficult thing ever. I know what you were saying, but maybe there are people there that, oh yeah, I cannot ever do that because it's so difficult. Even this guy that is the greatest one, and it's saying that it's difficult.
Yeah.
Imagine that, it's gonna cost me too much, so they don't get encouraged to do it.
Yeah.
But once you hit rock bottom, that's hard. Like, that's the hard part. So to answer your question, I think it all comes to gratitude. And it all comes to perspective in a way that, for example, I see trading as a business. And if you have businesses, so at first you invest in the business and your bank account goes to zero like this, right? In trading, it goes like this, and it gets drained little by little. And I think that's why it gets so painful, because it gets like drowned out little by little. In the business, you get that investment, and in the business, you get those costs in the business. And if you get break even 3 years later, you're happy,
Yep.
In trading, if you don't get that break even at 3 months, you're like, yeah, this thing doesn't work, And if you don't get profitable in a year, yeah, no, I'm not good enough. Oh my God, I'm not good.
It's so true. Every time.
And I think gratitude is the best way that we can feel like better with ourselves, is spotting the things that we have great in our lives that I bet it's 90% of your life. And the 10%, all right, I'll work on it.
Yep.
And I have flaws like everyone, but I'm here like trying to learn to get better.
Yep.
But I'm not saying like, yeah, I'm the worst trader in the world because I don't know how to scale. No, I'm like, I'm a great trader because I do these kind of things, and this 10% I have to, improve 1% a day.
Yes.
If I do that, and I marry the process and I fall in love with the process, then it's easier.
Yeah, I agree with that. And is there any other question out there that someone might have? And then you next, my man.
So trading can be a lonely experience, and you're fortunate enough to have your wife that is a soulmate and understands what you're doing, and I do as well. And I've encompassed my entire family. So my kids, my twin boys, my daughter, they're all part of my journey. And that's actually why I'm doing this. So my question is, what would you say to people out there that are by themselves? It's a tough business, it's lonely. For them, the importance of them having somebody to talk to, finding somebody to connect to, so that it's not all just internalized on them.
We heard something today that was beautiful. Jack Kellogg was with us via Zoom, and he told us that you got to be with people, surround yourself with people that are better. You got to surround yourself with people that are equal, and you got to surround yourself with people that are not there where you are. So you can teach them how to do the things that you're learning from the guys that are in another level that you're not. So I think the key for that, get a community where you can share these kind of things. Like Alex is doing a great job, like to it feels like trading is near us in a way. It feels like closer because you see the vulnerabilities. I don't know.
Vulnerabilities?
Español, perdón. But you can see traders' vulnerabilities, and that way you can relate a lot, and you can see that those kind of things. Even if you're lonely in your environment, you try to get that trading kind of mindset into your daily basis, even if it is online. You can have like partners online. I do it all the time.
Yeah.
Like I have a lot of trader friends, and we're not like seeing each other every time, but we share a lot via online. Yep. And it's a game changer to have that. And if you can come to events like this where you can meet amazing people, and even if you don't have the same level, you can relate to each one of you, and you can learn a lot of things. I learn a lot of things from you. Like you seem a really like family guy, and I love that. Mm-hmm. And the way he talks about his children,
yep.
I was like, oh my God, I want that. Yeah. I want to be at that age. I want to talk about that way about my children.
Amen to that.
So I learn a lot from you, and see that relates to trading a lot. People don't understand that what you are in your trading, you are in your life. That's why to be a better trader, you got to be a better person. That's what I love about this job. You have to be improving every single time. That's why I'm doing the 75 hard thing. I'm trying to be a better person every time, even if it's fitness, even if it's reading other type of books that are not trading related. Every single day I'm trying to push myself in order to be at that level so I can translate that into trading,
And we had another question earlier. Go ahead, my man.
It's not so much of a question, it's just some advice that you gave me. I traded next to you yesterday, and you saw me making a bunch of trades, taking profits, and then you saw me holding a bag. And he told me, he said, you're a good winner, but you're not a good loser. So being a good loser is part of the game. Like you said, it's boxing. You're going to take your licks. Just don't let them drain your account. Don't hold on to them. Holding and hoping is not a strategy. Take your wins, take your losses. Make sure you're making more wins than losses.
Dude, I love it. I love that he brought that up, because that's being a good loser is something that a lot of people, you can survive in the real working world being a good loser and not realize that you're not a good loser, right? Like you think oh yeah, I lose and I'm working my way up in companies, but when it comes to doing your own thing, like trading, and it's you, because a lot of people are usually working for someone else, right? But then when you pursue trading, it's you, and it's all your judgments about yourself follow you, and you have no one else to blame but you. And so because of that, you're really hit, as you said, you got to grow, right?
Totally.
And you need to get better at taking losses, because if you don't, you'll have some big losses. That happened to me, especially at the beginning. I couldn't take a loss.
Yes.
And so every time I could take losses. My excuse was, I'm so good at cutting that I'll just cut a lot.
Of course.
I can always buy back. That old saying, you can always buy back in. That's good advice, but it's so general that's not good advice for me as a newbie. When I first started, I just thought buy back. okay, cool. Like I'll cut it. Oh, it looks like it was a fake out. Buy back. Oh, I'll cut it. Looks like it's a fake out.
double
Buy back.
dipping that
Right?
you-
Yeah. And I didn't realize that was me not wanting to take a loss. And so like that's super important, man. So I'm glad you brought that up because if we can make money all day. At some point, you can start to become consistent. But the difference really is like, how good are you at taking losses? Because if you're good at taking losses, then you're going to have more profits in the end, right? Because if you're not, we're going to take losses, dude. It's inevitable.
I think society does not prepare us for taking losses. Like you didn't learn how to lose, and that's something like what are your parents taught you? Like, yeah, if you work hard, you're gonna win.
Yeah.
You're gonna make it. And it
not
doesn't
like that in
prepare you
trading.
for failures.
Yeah,
right?
true.
So he's an amazing trader. He's such a good. He was like banging all the plays of the world, pow, pow, with no fear. And
Yep.
I'm like, he's amazing. And when I saw that loss that he was having, I'm like, I hate when people like try to meddle with my trading.
Yeah, yeah.
But I know that he got it. See, he got it the right way.
Yeah. It was
And
delivered
I
correctly.
think what makes us better is learning how to lose. Like learning how to, like sometimes we mix our egos and our money. We link that to how we see things in life in general. Like you fight more for not being robbed $500 than to gain $500. And that's why I think that kind of psychology doesn't help us in trading. So if you know how to lose, things will be way better. I think it's better knowing how to lose than knowing how to win. I think it's better at first, obviously,
Right. Yeah,
because you
sure.
protect your capital
You gotta
and
survive.
you stay in the game.
Yep, that's right.
You got to stay in the game in order to gain experience.
And everyone, here's the thing, like you might hear Eduardo's story and think, like, I'm still learning right now and I should be where he's at today, right? You might hear that. But everyone that we have on the show has different stories. There's some people who take 1 month to find their own success. Some take 10 years, some take 5 years. So just don't worry about like the losses. Don't worry about that. Just stay focused on what you keep saying the process and become a better loser. But look, before we wrap this up, where can people, like, I'm sure they're going to be like, hey, like I want to learn more about you. I want to ask you questions. Can you tell them how they can find out more about you and so forth?
Sure. Instagram and Twitter, edu_trades. And I have a website, it's edu-trades.com. I teach people how to trade in Spanish.
I love that.
I think the best way that I can, in a way, put the best perspective there is that I've learned through all these monsters, Immigrant, Roland, Team Sykes, every single guys from MEC, Investors Underground. I've been all over, learning from each one of those, and I want to, give that to the Spanish-speaking community.
I love that. You
So-
tease me like you should have a Spanish show. I'm like,
Of course,
maybe
man.
one day.
No, hay que hacer esta entrevista en español alguna vez.
Well, look, man. Hey, look, it was a pleasure having you on the show, brother. I appreciate
Pleasure.
it, man. It's good seeing you.
Of course.
All right, we're done.
Listo, pues.
Thank you
¿Te
so
gustó?
much. Thank you so much.
¡Eh!
Thank you.